Hi friends, so we are going to start. Everyone make sure you have all of your materials, your colored paper, your colored felt, a piece of black paper, some things to make circles with. I have some jar lids, I have a quarter, you can use any coins, I have the top of a water bottle, I have a jar, some spices are perfect, and I also have a cup. Try to find a variety of sizes. You don't need as many as I have, but anything you can find to trace. Let's make sure we have a Sharpie. It's going to be for tracing. Some glue and our scissors. So first we're going to choose how we want to have our paper, if we want it hot dog or if we want it hamburger. Whatever way you want to have it is totally okay with me, or you could even decide what way you want to present it after we make our pieces on it, because it might be easier to decide then. So first we are going to make some circles. Let's start with our paper. So we are going to go ahead and trace some of our circles using our Sharpie. Now, when you're tracing, you want to hold on to whatever you're tracing really tight. So I'm going to hold it with just one of my fingers because it makes it easier. Hold it down tightly and go slow. Take your time. It's okay if it's not perfect, but try to get it as accurately as you can. So now I'm going to go ahead and fill this whole page with circles, or at least like 3 or 4 of them. So now before we trace our felt, we're going to cut out some of our circles. Scissor safety, please everyone, only sit down with your scissors, no standing up with them. Obviously no running with your scissors. If you're going to hold them, always keep them pointed downward. Never hold them up with the sharp end up. And be very careful to stay away from your fingers. So we are going to, the easiest way I think to cut out the circles is to cut out the space where your circles are, cut each one individually, then it'll just be easier because they're smaller pieces. So when I go to cut, we want to stay around our line, and I find it's the easiest to move my scissors very little, but move my hand, rotating my circle around. And take your time cutting, and if you notice there's a little bit of Sharpie still on the end here of my paper, which is totally okay because we could glue it down this way, so don't worry about that. So let's cut out all of our circles and then we'll move on to our felt. Alright, so I cut out my blue circles and now I'm on to my green. Just a heads up, everybody, please save all of your scraps. If they're super tiny, don't save them, but if they have some more room on them that you could make some circles, make sure that you save them. So put them aside in a nice little pile so it doesn't make a mess. And yeah, keep those because you might want to make more circles after. So now we're going to go ahead and cut out our green circles. I will show again how I like to cut my circles. So I'm holding my hand with the scissors pretty still, besides, going up and down with my fingers, and I'm moving my left hand and rotating my circle. Rather than moving my scissors, because it makes it a little bit harder, I'm moving my hand. And if this doesn't work for you, then you could totally do it your own way. That's just what's easiest for me, so I'm letting you know. And again, don't forget to save your scraps. You might want to make some more circles after. So now that I have all of my circles cut out, I'm going to flip them all over so that I can't see any of that Sharpie that's left over. So hopefully I don't accidentally glue it that way. And now we're going to glue our circles down so that they dry a little bit before we do our felt circles. So does everyone remember my video about space and positive and negative space? So this is when we are going to be using our circles that are positive space on our black background, which is our negative space. And I'm going to play around with my circles a little bit before I decide to glue them down. So putting them all different ways, trying out how they look next to each other, maybe moving some colors. So take the next minute or so and play around with them a little bit before you decide on where you want to glue them down. So once you've decided where you want your circles to go, we can start gluing them down. Twist the top of your glue, make sure it's open. And a couple dots of glue goes a long way, so let me show you. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots for that circle. Just press down a little bit to make sure all your ends are down. And again, just a couple dots of glue. Press the edges down. If you notice on some of the ones you glued before, if they start to pop up, just run your finger right over and just put it right back down. So now glue down all of your circles. So once we have all of our circles where we want them glued, we are just going to take this and set it aside to let it dry a little. Notice that I see my edges popping up a little bit, so I'm just running my finger over them gently and placing them right back down where I want them to be. If they're coming up a little bit in your final product, it is not a big deal at all. Don't worry about it. We just want that paper to stick on there, so make sure of that. Alright, so let's set this aside. And let's get our felt. So we are going to do the same thing with our felt. It might be a little bit harder to cut than the paper, so just take your time. And just remember also to save all of your scraps because we might want to make some more circles after. Alright, so now we're going to cut out our felt circles. And like I said before, it might be a little bit more challenging than the paper, so just take your time. So now we have our felt circles all cut out, and we have our paper circles on our black paper that's drying, and we are going to start playing around now with our felt circles, putting them all in different spaces and maybe creating some shapes inside of the negative space. And just play around for a few minutes and see where you want your felt pieces to be. Alright, so I decided I think I like it like this. Notice how I overlapped a bunch of my circles and made some really cool negative space shapes. Continue playing around with that if you would like to. So yeah, so now let's glue down our felt shapes. While we're gluing our felt circles, we want to just be careful to not put too much glue at all because it could start to go through the other side of the felt. So do the same thing with the paper, just tap down and do that for all your felt circles. Alright, so we have our paper circles glued down, we have our felt circles glued down. Now's the time if you want to add any more circles to go for it. I'm thinking that this space right here looks a little bit empty, so I'm going to choose either my paper or my felt, and I'm going to put another circle there. I'm going to choose a little one. And so yeah, now's the time. If you feel like there's any more spaces that need a circle, then put one there, any size. And glue it down. So now I feel like my paper and my felt part is all done, and now is going to be time to take out our yarn. So we created our real texture here using our felt, and we're also going to create some more real texture using our yarn. So I'm going to take a little piece of my yarn and snip it. And we're going to try to make some cool circles using the yarn that also create shapes out of the negative space. So I'll show you how I do that. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to make a little circle out of my glue. Very, very, very gently squeeze the glue, not tough at all, very gently. And I'm going to take my yarn and just work it in. And if there's this little tail left over, you can just put a teeny little drop of glue. And you can just press down on it a little bit. And then you can do as many as you want of these. You can do one, you could do two, you could do 10 of them, however many you want. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 3. So my next one I think I'm going to do right here. And again, very, very gently squeeze your glue. And then make a circle. Oh no, I didn't have enough yarn to finish that one, but I'm going to wipe some of this glue off because it actually looks kind of cool, like it's behind this circle. So I'm just going to wipe a little bit of that glue off and leave it like that. And those are some of the awesome discoveries that are made through mistakes, because I didn't want to do that, but it did come out pretty cool. So don't be afraid to make mistakes, because really awesome things can happen. My last circle I'm going to put is over here. Remember, very, very, very gently squeeze your glue and make a circle. And then take your yarn. And don't worry if you get any little glue on your fingers, it'll come right off with some water. And we are going to work this around. And that one just happened to be a perfect size for it. So there we have it, everyone. We have our circle composition made from mixed materials of paper, felt, and yarn. And yeah, thank you so much for creating, and I cannot wait to see your final products.